Hey friend, welcome back to Chronic Health Solutions. Okay, today we're going to be wrapping up the 3-part series on the shifts that I made that finally helped me to begin to finally feel better again, feeling more in control of my emotions, sleeping better, feeling more energetic, getting rid of brain fog, lowering my inflammation. And we have talked about in the previous 2 episodes, we talked about vitamin D, and then we also talked about progesterone. And now I want to share one thing that kind of started it all, for me anyway, and that was my thyroid. So for years, I was told that my thyroid was fine, but I did not feel fine. I was anxious, I was exhausted, I had brain fog, couldn't remember anything, constantly sick, and I just felt so unmotivated and like I was falling apart. And if you have ever been brushed off like that or gone to the doctor looking for answers and not received them, even though you knew something was wrong, I want you to really lean into this episode because what I discovered really changed everything for me, including my ability to conceive after 5 years of infertility. So let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to Chronic Health Solutions. If you're more than just a tired mom, I'm talking trying to make it through the day without crashing by noon, you're not alone. I'm Ashley, a wife, mom, and certified health coach. I have been where you are, battling chronic health symptoms and chronic illness, things like brain fog, joint pain, and fatigue that made me wonder if I'd ever feel like myself again. After uncovering root causes like stress, poor sleep, and hormone imbalance, I found simple health routines to begin to feel better, one simple habit at a time. Keeping up with your kids is not impossible. Pop in your earbuds and take a break from the chaos. It's you time. Sometimes it feels like no matter what you do, the exhaustion, the stress, and the overwhelm never let up. You want to be more present with your kids, you want to have energy for your family, and you want to finally feel like you're doing enough and honestly just feel better, but it all feels out of reach. My one-on-one chronic health coaching is going to give you a way forward. Together, we're going to create anchoring routines and micro habits that are going to actually fit your life, calm your nervous system, and give you the space to rest, reset, and finally start to feel like yourself again. No more guessing or struggling alone, just simple, actionable steps that are going to help you to move forward, and they're also going to finally stick. All right, if you want to learn more, you can go to ashleybraden.com/coaching. That is AShleyBraden.com/COACHING. Or you can find the link in the show notes below. I'll see you soon. Okay, like I kind of referred to earlier, for 5 years, I struggled with infertility. We went through different fertility testing. We did fertility treatments, really couldn't figure out what was going on, what was wrong. And I just remember feeling so stressed, feeling kind of like a failure, wondering what was wrong with me, and just feeling this heaviness. And then at the same time, I was battling anxiety, constant exhaustion. I was getting sick all of the time. I had no motivation to really do anything outside of the basic things that I had to do. And, you wonder, okay, is it because of the situations I have going on in my life, or is there something going on with my body? And along that journey to trying to conceive, I had a couple of doctors run thyroid tests, and they would just come back and tell me that my thyroid was fine. But I could tell something was wrong. I just didn't know what it was. And finally, at just a regular checkup with my primary care physician, she, of course, knew that we were having trouble conceiving and asked me if she could run a full thyroid panel. And I said, sure, why not? Not knowing, what was going to happen. And then that's whenever I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And at that time, I began taking natural desiccated thyroid, which I will explain later why I chose that route over just a T4 medication. And it took about a year, but once I got my levels up to an optimal range, not just the bare minimum of normal, but optimal, that's whenever I began to start feeling better. My energy returned. I wasn't getting sick all the time, and the anxiety went away. And the best part was I also was able to conceive after my thyroid labs and levels were all in that optimal range. So that diagnosis really did change the trajectory of my family and also obviously my health as well. And this is what I want you to kind of take from this story, is that a lot of times, many of us we don't really understand what is fully going on with our thyroid. We ask for a test, and what happened in my case, which often happens for so many of you, is you go to the doctor and you say, I would like for my thyroid to be checked. And the only test that they check is your TSH. And of course, for me, every time I was told, oh, your TSH is fine. But your TSH is only going to measure essentially how loudly your brain is telling your body or shouting at your thyroid to work. A TSH test is not going to tell you if your body is producing antibodies that are fighting against your thyroid. It is also not going to tell you how much hormone your thyroid is actually making or how well your body is using it. That is why, if you are wondering if you have thyroid issues, I highly recommend getting a full thyroid panel. And I'm going to share a little bit about what that includes and then why we include those in a full thyroid panel. So the first thing, of course, is to check your TSH. But then after that, you would want to look at free T4. And this is how much thyroid T4 is in storage. T4 is essentially your storage hormone. So what happens with the body is you have T4 and you have T3. And T4, the body converts T4 into T3. T3 is the active hormone that your cells actually use to make energy. So you also need, along with your free T4, you also want your free T3 checked, because again, this is the hormone that is going to help you to feel better. If you want that energy, T3 is where it's at. So you need to see, where is your free T3 at? The other thing you want to check is reverse T3. The reason for this is because reverse T3, when it is too high, will actually block that active free T3 hormone. So you want to make sure that your reverse T3 is not too high. A lot of thyroid professionals that I follow will say keeping it under 12 is ideal. And then, of course, with your free T3 and your T4, you want those in the upper third of your lab range, ideally to feel your best. The other thing you want to check is your thyroid antibodies. The reason why you want to do this, of course, is to see if you are having an immune reaction or immune response to your thyroid. So is your immune system attacking your thyroid? There are different antibodies for Graves and for Hashimoto's, and they can check all of those. Of course, it depends. Graves and Hashimoto's have very different symptoms. But I have also personally experienced, there are times with Hashimoto's where you can swing hyper and it can almost present as Graves. And I've had both spectrums where I've presented almost as hyper and then also times when I've presented as hypo. So if you're not sure, of course, just share that with your provider. Let them know what's going on, and maybe they will be willing to kind of tweak and tailor your test to what makes the most sense for you. The thing is, if you don't get all of these numbers, you are not seeing the whole picture of what is going on with your thyroid. And again, like I mentioned earlier, the other key piece of this is that we want to look at the difference between normal and optimal. So there are some labs that will say a TSH up to 4.5 is fine. But, there are lots of thyroid experts who will say that most people are going to feel their best when their TSH is under a 2. This is also very personal. For me, I feel my best when my TSH is under a 1. And whenever my free T3 and my free T4 are in the upper third of my lab ranges. Okay, and so the same thing with your free T3 and free T4. They typically recommend for optimal, you want those to be in the upper third range of your lab range. So being at that very bottom of normal, you may often still feel symptomatic. And that's why a lot of times people will be on just like a T4 only medication. Their body is not converting the T4 into the active T3, and so they still continue to be symptomatic. That is why I take the natural desiccated thyroid. I actually now take a compounded thyroid that has a higher level of T3, which has helped me to feel my best yet. But that's why I chose that route, because it gives you both T3 and T4. That way, if your body is struggling to convert the T4 into T3, you are still getting that active form in your thyroid medication. And for me, that has worked best. Again, everything I'm sharing is just my own personal story, my own personal journey. It's just giving you information for you to take, dissect, really weigh it against your own personal experience and decide what's best for you, advocate for yourself, and move forward from there. And so, like I mentioned, this is essentially exactly what happened to me. On my papers, on paper, my labs looked okay, especially if someone was just checking TSH, or at times whenever someone wasn't willing to get me optimal. But I would still feel horrible. I still did not feel my best. And so once I was able to work with a doctor who, one, was able to check all the right tests, but then two, said, hey, let's get you to optimal ranges. Let's get your T3 up into the upper third, where you're going to feel your best. And that's whenever my immune system started getting stronger, my energy came back. Honestly, my drive for life and just being able to tackle things and take on new things and feeling like I had the capacity to do that really increased. Being able to keep up with my kids increased as well. And then, of course, way back in the beginning, because for me, this journey of thyroid health has been it's been probably 12 to 13 years that I've been doing this. And my oldest is 10. So it was definitely a journey, but obviously at that time when I was able to get optimal, that's whenever I was able to conceive too. And of course, as always, I am a big believer in creating health through simple daily habits too. Like I've mentioned before, there are great foundational practices that we can have that are going to help to set us up for the best health possible. And then there are times when we need support outside of that. And of course, combining those two things together is going to give you the best results possible. The way that we breathe, what we eat, how much we're able to rest, how we're managing our stress, and then just making sure, are we giving our body the basic nutrients that it needs to function? Those are going to be those foundational things that we are in control of no matter what. And those are the things that I teach in my coaching because, again, like I said, those are the things that we get to control. We get to decide every single day. But, there are those times whenever we have those deeper medical factors that are going on and they're holding us back from feeling our best. And we do need to pursue that route in order to begin to feel better again. So I feel like when you can partner those two things together, those consistent habits, those consistent daily practices, or those healthy anchoring routines that I talk about, plus getting that from proper medical testing, and then also working with a physician or a primary care provider who is willing to work with you and really meet you with the goals that you have for your body and for your health. That's whenever you really can get that full picture and the full support that you need and really begin to see improvements and progress in the way that you feel. And so if you would like for me to help you with any of those basic healthy habits or anything like that, I am happy to do that. We have one-on-one coaching calls where we can kind of work through that to see what that looks like for you. You can find all of those details at ashleybraden.com/coaching, and I'll have that link in the show notes as well. But just keep in mind that those are the things that we really need to start focusing on when we're looking at healing from chronic illness. And that's why I wanted to share this with you, because I want you to see the big picture. While yes, these healthy habits matter, sometimes there are other things going on that we have to take action and really advocate for ourselves on in order to feel our best. And that is totally okay. It's okay that you might have some additional things that you really need extra support, or that you need some kind of a medication or something like that in order to get your body functioning the way it was. I know at first when I realized I was going to be on thyroid medication for the rest of my life, I felt very discouraged by that because I had such a natural-minded outlook. But at this point in time, I have realized how much, one, I go the most natural route that I can, but also I have realized how much it has improved my quality of life by being willing to say, okay, I do have to have this thyroid replacement because I can't function. My body's just not doing what it needs to right now. Now, obviously, yes, I'm working on addressing autoimmune issues and inflammation and all of that, and that's great and wonderful, but it's also okay if you need that additional support. So I just want to encourage you, if there is one thing that you take away from this series, it's just that I want to remind you that your symptoms are not in your head. And so if you feel like something is wrong, advocate for yourself and continue to take those little steps to feel better, but also to figure out what's going on. And I can assure you, with the right habits, with the right support, you can feel better again. If you're feeling hopeless and you're feeling like it's never going to happen, I promise you, you can. And again, this is where I really encourage you to lean into praying for the Lord to give you direction on what path you need to take, because I have found that to be so true for myself, of letting him guide me into wherever he's wanting me to go next has been such a blessing in me being able to finally feel better and feel like my old self again. So anyway, friends, that is all I have for this episode. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I will see you back next time. Hey friend, I hope you found today's episode helpful. If you did, would you take a minute to share it with another mom who's struggling with chronic symptoms? And leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It means the world to me to know this podcast is making a difference for you. All right, it's time for me to go tackle those snack requests, and remember that a short walk, even if the kids turn it into a race, still counts as self-care. Keep chasing those little wins. Even when it feels messy, you're making progress. The information shared in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult your healthcare provider before making any changes to your health routine. I'm not a doctor, and this podcast is not intended to treat or diagnose any condition. You're the expert on your body. Listen to it and reach out to a trusted provider for support.